So most of the IOL insertions are quite predictable. There are a few cases where you have difficulties. So I'll show a few cases where we had difficulty in IOL injection. So here this was a preloaded IHANS, and as you can see that as I was pushing the plunger, it was going over the IOL rather than pushing the IOL further. So I have now detached this preloaded cartridge from the injector, and I'm trying to use the same plunger to push the IL forward, but it's not happening because probably the plunger's length is not adequate to push the IOL. So here I used the 27 gauge cannula, and very gently I am pushing this IL forward. As I push it forward, it goes to that narrow bore at the end, and at this point I thought that now the plunger should be pushing the IOL rather than going over it, because now there is no space over the IOL. So now again I reloaded the cartridge over this injector, and as I push this plunger, this is by rotation. This is a new preloaded device which the Techni's platform has launched, and now you could see that I could insert the IOL without any difficulty. So even with preloaded platforms, sometimes we may have issues. Now this was accurately see where you could see that the cartridge in fact split when the IOL was being pushed. This sometimes happens when we push it too fast, or the walls of this cartridge are thin at some points, which makes it split open. Here I use the Sinsky itself to carefully push the IOL further, and but this cannot be always done. This is a case 3 where my assistant has loaded the IOL, but this was a thin IOL because of the patient was myopic, and the IOL bent upwards rather than downward as you generally put in these cartridge. So what I did here is that the plunger, which was actually downward, I bent it upward so that the plunger will be now pushing along the roof of this bore rather than floor, and so you can see that now this upward bent IOL could be pushed because of this plunger, and it was in fact reverse loaded, so I had to now rotate it to the right orientation. So this can happen again sometimes. So when by mistake you can tend to push the IOL optic upward then downward, and you have to now of course recorrect this plunger for the next case. Now here again there was a split cartridge, as you can see, and as I told earlier that you may not be able to push it further if the IOL is stuck here, and sometimes it's best to just leave the IOL there and gently pull it out from the incision. Or another option, sometimes if the IOL is half stuck into the incision, you can just enlarge the incision a little bit and push it further. But here I reloaded the IOL, and I could push it in the bag easily using a new injector cartridge system. So we get these issues sometimes with IOL, and if you keep your head cool, there is always method to tackle such issues. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe.